Yeah, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the CEO podcast. Today, we are going to be sponsored by High Hit. I will drop a link into the chat here in a minute. A little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions for Anthony and Lex, you can go ahead and drop it into the Q&A and we can answer those on the air. And welcome to the CEO podcast. I'll go ahead and turn this over to Anthony and Lex.
Lisa, thank you so much. I gotta say, Lisa was great. When I told Lisa it was gonna be a Duran Duran song to open, she was like, "Yay, Duran Duran!" I won't tell you what she said about my prior music choices, but she was happy that it was Duran Duran. Hungry Like a Wolf. To tell you how much a child of the '80s I am, the guy who did the covers for Duran Duran albums back when they were albums was Patrick Nagel, and I had a Nagel poster, as a child of the '80s. Which, now kind of makes me cringe. I'm like, I did what? Anyway, welcome everybody. If you've noticed, most of these songs that I play at the beginning of the podcast are kind of laying out a theme, and the Hungry Like the Wolf is our hunt for employees. And I think we really need to encourage and is trying to help the industry succeed. I need to help the industry encourage turning into hunters for our employees. And that's what I want to talk about today. We're also going to try to be more disciplined and try to get these podcasts, the content to be between 20 and 30 minutes. So they're like the perfect car driving podcast. You can listen for those who are listening to your car or forward on, it's that perfect commute. So I'm going to try to do a better job of not being so ADD and so excited to talk to the industry and stay on topic. Lex, will you help me with that today?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, here's why I was thinking about the becoming hunters and changing the way we recruit employees. We're now open. Yay, we're open. We're the third from the last state to be fully open, and we're moving forward, and that's great news. And now, of course, we jump from one crisis to another, which we talked a lot about last month, is our workforce shortage. Our unemployment is at 5.3%. These people are not all locked up in unemployment. They really are people we're going to have to go hunt for. And we're going to have to find it where they are. During the call today, if you have ideas, I'm going to pick out the best idea I see in the chat and call it out and try to talk about it a little bit. And then the best idea I see in hunting for employees, I'll take them to lunch later this month. That's my lunch offer this month. And won't it be great to have lunch face to face? So I'm going to go back to the hunting reference and why I did it. My son, my 19-year-old son, went on a hike with about 6 of his buddies, and they came back to our house afterwards, and they were talking to me about going to work, and 4 of them wanted to work in the industry. And this is an absolute true story. 4 of them had applied to 4 different restaurants, and none of them heard back. And I'm like, well, you will, because we are way short employees. And a couple of them never did. None of them heard back from anyone directly until I gave them some names and some folks to talk to. One of these kids, and this is again is maybe more of a 70s, 80s reference, is Eddie Haskell. I mean, this kid is like, all the parents love him. He's super aggressive. He was born to be in hospitality in that front, right? He can come in and make people feel like home and put on different personalities. This kid would have been outstanding in our industry. And I kind of picked him apart from the others because I saw this in him. And I called a couple of our members and passed on a resume and said, this is a good one. You should hire him. Not a lot of industry experience, a little bit in college, but not a lot. But we're okay right now, right? You give me someone who's qualified, we can move forward. No one called him back for 10 days, actually 14 days. And so I called him after a week and said, you heard back from anyone? He's like, no, I haven't. I'm like, all right, I'll make sure they heard you back. Called him a couple of days later. I'm like, you heard back from anyone? He's like, no, but I got an offer from Amazon. And so he's now working for Amazon. No offense to Amazon, he should be in hospitality. This kid was born to be, I mean, a lot of stuff to go, but he would have been a great manager or other stuff. Maybe he still will be one day. It's a college kid, but it just dawned on me, we don't know how to hunt for employees right now. And if we got to be self-accountable, we got to look ourselves in the mirror a little bit and saying, are we good hunters? Do we know how to do this? Do we know how to respond timely? If this is this much of a crisis, how do we get about being better? And so let's talk about some of the things that are being a great hunter. Lex, what do you think of some of the elements of being a great hunter are? And then let's apply those concepts to this podcast today.
Well, part of being a hunter, I mean, there's also the hunter-gatherer concept, right? And I remembered when we had our pizza restaurants, we were always hiring. We always had our sign up saying help wanted. We had a clear, even at the time, email, phone number, point of contact that anybody could submit their resume to. And we always just monitored that on an ongoing basis. So people knew that the lights were on and that we were looking for specific things. In our case, most of the time we looked for drivers. So it was very specific in that. So at the because of drivers, we were able to offer a little bit more higher dollar per hour. And that's what we found is we found a lot of inside people, a lot of other folks that were not making as much as drivers brought in because of that lead. So, we were able to advertise, this is 10 years ago, close to $20 an hour, because when you added in the mileage and the tips, it came up to around that much. So I would encourage people letting people know that the lights are on, but also lead with some of your really high valued positions that look pretty good.
I think always be hiring is a good thing I heard there, and always be looking. What I also heard there, Lex, and this is something that I think these kids fell into, is have a good trap. And maybe this isn't the perfect analogy, but if you have a website and people are supposed to go to apply there and they're applying and it's not getting through to you, or you only check it 3 or 4 days and you follow up 5 days later, you don't have a good trap system. And so you're talking about having a place for people to do it. I'm not sure the industry has a way to catch what this is. And so, so one, do you have a good trap? When people apply, can you actually get them in? And I think that's a good one. I would say another one is to be aggressive, and not to repeat the, I'm sorry, but I say be aggressive. I think of that high school chant we would say about being aggressive, but be out there. I think right now, I was talking to some HR people and preparing for this podcast, and it's almost like you have to reverse engineer the hiring process. 3 years ago, you expected employees to reply to you after the interview. Now, have you sent a text? Have you said, that was a great interview, I enjoyed our conversation? Have you done the follow-up email? Have you done the looking? And I know this is so weird to be in this spot, but I think, are you the aggressor and great hunters tend to be really strong aggressors in going out and getting what they need. Elena, I'm going to answer your question on UI here at the end. Lex, can you make sure if there's other things that pop in, I don't forget about Elena's question? I think the other thing I would mention is be timely. 14 days to get back to a candidate is too long. The market is red hot. And the people who are looking online, getting an offer and going. And so make sure that you've got some ability to check your traps, follow up quickly, and communicate with them so they know what's going on. So we don't lose this great kid I just talked about to Amazon. He should be in hospitality. One of our people said best to respond to a new candidate in an hour. I agree with that. If that's feasible, and go from there. Brian, again, if this wasn't a real story and this wasn't a strong company, I would agree with you, but I'm just telling the GMs aren't always executing what the corporate office wants. And so replying quickly is key. I think the other thing that we should probably talk about is getting to where the people are. So finding the right hunting spot. And so really think through, where are my great people and how do I get to them? And when I talk about that is, if high school kids are important, where are the high school kids gathering this summer? Where are they posting? Who do you know who goes to the high school who can post in their social media? How do you get to where the people are? I talked to one HR person in preparing for this. They were going to a community festival to promote their hiring. They'd never tried it before, but they were getting to where the people are. And they wanted to meet people and to be supporting the community. And they were basically running a hiring booth at a community festival. Way out of the box, but their point is, we want to get to where the bodies are. And how do we proceed for that right now? Lex, I got a couple of others in following this hunter analogy, but do you have any others?
Yeah, actually, and this could be applicable to full service, because takeout is so prevalent now, and even delivery. But again, this is a pizza example, but I believe that this is applicable to a lot of even full service. We box top now hiring $15 an hour or $17 an hour. So whenever we went delivery, it takes pennies to put a box topper there. Here, contact our manager. This is really good at the local level. So if you are having DoorDash come in and pick up some product and deliver it to your customers, you can put, in addition to your menu, you could put a flyer in there and say, hey, we are now hiring for shift managers, or we are now hiring for sous chefs, or we are now hiring for drivers. Because a lot of times these households have kids or have other relatives that are looking for nice part-time work, and say, hey, maybe I can get a 20% discount there at that great restaurant I love eating at all the time.
I think that's actually a really good idea. If you're passionate about our products, how about help us make it? And I think, and this is, again, the world is flipped on its ear, in that it used to be, our great culture is you have a job. And now people want to be part of what they're passionate about. And if they're already passionate and a diehard of you from a customer standpoint, they might know, or they might be willing, or someone might be willing to be part of that. And I think that's a great suggestion. I know that some of this is going to sound basic, but I'm hearing it from a lot of folks. The community colleges are shockingly not hearing from a lot of operators. And so I would really try to talk to, again, going to where the people are, getting into whoever the right person is at your local community college and getting something up there. Talked to a couple in the last few weeks, and they said they're not really hearing from any employers about hiring their folks. And again, even if they're not looking for careers, they're college kids, and they're putting themselves through colleges and other areas. And there's a community college in just about every one of your locations, I would guess, within a 30-minute drive. I'm going to get to another one, and then I want to kind of go through some of these ideas here that I see in the chat. I think the other one is I'm going to call it great bait. Be the place that they want to work. I kind of bit off on this being a great hunter analogy for today's podcast and how to be a great hunter. But HR people keep telling me the bigger issue is, are we where people want to work? Is this a culture where people want to be? And so when you're talking to your potential employers or attracting them, are you simply talking about wages and benefits? Or are you talking about culture? That look what we do here, look how we approach this, look at what the career ladder is. I was talking to someone in our neighborhood who's the GM for a delivery. How do I say this without naming the company? They deliver a lot of packages. I'm not going to say which one. And their wages that they're hiring for are not that different from the wages a lot of you are offering. In fact, with tips and or back of the house, I would say they're lower. And I'm like, how do you find these people? What's going on there? And like, well, they're coming looking for the career here. They're coming looking for the next steps in the jobs. And I think I told everyone on my podcast last month, met with a bunch of the workforce directors, and people aren't seeing the future in our industry that prior generations did. And so when you lay out your great bait, talk about the great culture you have, talk about the careers, talk about where they go from this job. It's part of attracting them because the new generation of people who are currently looking don't see that. I put this akin to software companies in the 90s and that were trying to hire 2 software companies away from traditional office buildings. Think of all the crazy things they did to promote their culture. Some of them didn't stick, but a lot of them were really offering, you want to work for us because our culture is fantastic. And granted, you can't have a server sit around in a beanbag and drink free pop all day long. But there are probably things you can do that make us different and more fun than other places. And the HR people, again, keep wanting me to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about next month will be the topic of the podcast. How do we create a great culture? It's a bigger impact to our hiring than I realized, but I'm hearing it a lot. Lex, what other ideas might you have? And then if not, I want to go through a couple I see in the room.
It's an indirect one, but I've seen it really effective with some communities where we did the campaigns with Toys for Tots, and some franchisees would be really active. They'd really be involved in their community. And I would notice a lot of times if they're involved in a charity or in a community cause, a lot of folks that they meet or a lot of their family and kids at those community causes, because they share the same cause, whether it's, Toys for Tots, whether it's Salvation Army, or whether it's something else that they're working on together, that tends to attract a lot of people that you wouldn't otherwise think of. And these are great people because they're already involved in the community, they obviously care. And then they see their local business also care. That's a nice selling point for the local restaurants and hotels.
I think that's a great idea of how can you find a mutual benefit, both with that and where people might be for employment. Yeah. And so supporting, there's a lot of people in the correctional world still looking to break into the industry and understand where we're at. What are the local causes to get them employed, or veteran causes, or other things? They can support a cause by promoting the cause, you're promoting your culture, promoting your business. And I think that's a good one. And I think the overall message I would have, and I'm trying to keep myself around that 20-minute mark, and then I want to go into some of these things, is outside of all these analogies of have the right equipment, meaning when people apply, it gets to you. Someone in here said, every applicant should hear back from you in 24 hours. Completely agree. I can tell you it's not happening because I'm talking to enough high school kids and other folks out there. Maybe some of the people on this call are great and I'm preaching to the choir, but there's one corporation who says, yes, it's our policy to reply back to everyone in 24 hours, was one that hadn't replied to some of the other kids. And so not all the GMs are following through, which gets back to me being the hunter is how many times do you find because you're short of workers today, you don't have time to follow up, which is compounding the problem. And so, hey, a busser didn't show, a cook didn't show, a bartender didn't show. I'm bartending today. I had to. I think we have to find a way to say, you know what, if I can't get ahead of this problem, if I can't, I'll make this up. I'll create heresy for a second. Close for 2 or 3 days and say, I can't work the floor today. I've got to hire. We're not going to get ahead of this problem. This problem is going to be in front of us for 2 or 3 years. This is not going to end by the end of the summer unless there's another dynamic change in the economy. And so how do you make the time to be the hunter and get out there? Let's go through some of the ideas. Lisa, can you tell me some of the ideas that were thrown in here or questions?
I will unmute myself.
There you go.
Yeah. An idea from the audience was put your HR person's cell number in the ad so you get an immediate alert when you have a new candidate. And this person suggests responding to a new candidate within 1 hour.
I like that. I like that one a lot. I think people are hiring on site right now. To Brian's point of how on earth are some people not calling people back for 14 days? So I like Laura's recommendation a lot. I think that's a good one. Other questions or ideas in the? Yes.
Hire an interim person to check the traps and work the hiring process. GMs could outline the positions that are required The interim person would be that frontline person to get the process started so the potential employees don't go to Amazon.
I like that one a lot. There are several people in the industry. I'm going to build on that one that have retired or don't want to work the kind of hours the industry has done, but they know the industry. Could you find someone like this as a project manager to be your hunter? If you don't have time to do it because of all the other things I've said about, is there someone that you could find that you could say, this is a project I need. It fits in with their retirement world, but you could put a price on their success and move forward temporarily. I like this. I like Sharon's idea a lot. Other ideas from the audience?
One is we need to advertise for beginning positions that are not just minimum wage plus tips. And what does that mean for an entry-level person? It's more of a question. If you haven't worked in the industry, tips aren't seen as guaranteed as compared to the hourly rate.
The tips issue is interesting because it is not as intuitive to this generation as it was prior generations. I talked to a lot of people who are like, I've got a 25-hour job, and they're older, but I don't make as much money as I used to make as a server or as a bartender when I first started out. But when I talk to college folks or other folks in my talks, tips is not as attractive as it used to be. So how do we articulate it differently or build that in? So I think that's a really good thought. Lisa, keep throwing them out there.
Yeah, for the hotel industry, Julie McCafferty offers free meals and flexible hours. They find employees through friends and church and social connections. An end of summer celebration dinner with spouses and partners are invited.
Yeah, I think that is really a cool concept. I like the church and the social thing. I went to the Mariners game the other day, and again, I am throwing out wild ideas because this is a crisis, and I think, could you approach for some of your slower nights a charity and have them work the slower nights and build your brand? Like if you've been to the Mariners Stadium, you know that sometimes some of those booths hire charities to work the booths, and then the money goes to the charity. Again, these are out of the box thinkings, but I think these are out of the box times. And so I love the idea of Julie's idea of connecting with social and church connections. I think celebrating our employees is really important right now, and I can't say that enough. And I'm going to talk a lot about culture in the next meetings.
One has really recently changed her tact on hiring to make sure hourlies understand that we are invested in them and in their development. So we have a ton of benefits. And so retraining general managers and hiring managers to present a total compensation, even for hourly employees.
I love that concept a lot. This is what the HR people keep telling me that I'm missing. And I think this post really here captures a lot of that. Is how do we become attractive, and how do we articulate our career development to a generation who doesn't get it right now? And I said it as if I'm blaming them. I probably should rephrase that. They don't understand it. And it's our job to articulate that culture and articulate the growth, articulate the opportunity. I think this is a really strong post. I think that's some of the ways we do it. And I would build on that concept. Last month, I talked about apostles. How do you find apostles on your team if they love the culture as much as you want them to, or you think they do? They know as many people as you do. And so how could they go find their folks? And so do you have apostles on your team? And if you don't, then you probably have a culture issue. I see messages keep popping up, Lisa.
Yeah. Be flexible with hours. Don't require them to work every weekend. Job sharing is a must. Going 410s for managers. Give a sign-on bonus after 30 days. And one of them has a small establishment and has had success in hiring and retention lately by limiting hours, closing earlier than they used to, and ensuring staff gets 2 days off in a row. The bottom line is the staff doesn't want to work 50 hours a week anymore. They They have also slightly raised their kitchen staff wages and promote their tip pooling and job advertisements.
I love all those concepts, and I think they're hitting to a lot of areas where we just have to adapt. Isn't it strange we're talking about how we have to adapt to our employees versus how we have to adapt to our customers? And that's probably part of our evolution. And here we are, in that if we have business till 2, but our employees don't want to work till 2, and we have no one to work until 2, should we work until 2? Completely different thinking. A lot of this is going to evolve, but I think there's the ideas we need to get out there.
Evaluate operating days and hours to make sure you are harvesting the best business with less headcount. It's amazing what being closed on Sunday and Monday have done for our culture, both management as well as having the 2 best days off in the industry. This is from Chad Mackay from El Gaucho. McKay. Sorry.
That's okay. I love this concept. If you don't have the ability permanently, at least for the short term, do a P&L per shift. And if you are losing money on particular days, maybe you evolve to say, if I can't staff that shift, I want to move those employees to where I do make the money and have a different culture. I think this is a large part of what's coming in the industry. I think we'll all find different times and different ways and different shifts to make available. But I think this is a fantastic idea by Chad. And I'm hearing more and more people have success with it.
And Elena Morris says that this has been a godsend. Chad is right. I did it temporarily to let everybody catch their breath and restaff. It's engendered so much goodwill.
Another idea that you kind of covered in a big list, but I want to come back to: do you have software that allows people more flexibility in swapping shifts? And can you get there? And so still a lot of operators say, here is the time that you have to be here. And employees are still, this is a group that wants flexibility, and call it job sharing, call it shift swapping, but does your technology allow for that and allow them to have the lives that they want to balance with for what we have out there? So Lisa, I feel like we're running down on questions, and I'm trying to be more disciplined to keep this on a half hour. Is there anything we've missed?
No. Oh, there was actually one question about someone confirming something they just heard, that if an employee is hired and showed up for one shift and then doesn't show up after that, that is what it takes to keep their extra unemployment benefit going. And then another question about how they structure signing bonuses.
We should be able to reply that they were offered work, never showed up again, and that should disqualify them for unemployment, unless I'm misunderstanding the question. So if they want to follow up, can you put in podcast about how to challenge a claim? And let me challenge my friends at ESD to make sure that their system is working. And this is for everyone, by the way. I forgot to mention this at the beginning. If you have any questions on what we talked about, or ideas, or you want to share, or follow-up needs or questions we didn't get to, please email us. And Lisa, can you verbally say the email a couple times?
Absolutely. It's podcast@wahospitality.org.
So we're approaching the 30 minutes, which is what I was trying to do here. So here's my plea for the industry for this month. This crisis is going to be with us for 2 to 3 years. Find the hunter, or become the hunter in your business, whether it's you, whether it's a contractor outside, whether it's someone you see potential in, and give them the time to hunt for your employees. Make sure that you're attractive to them, have great bait in who you are and what you want to be aggressive in getting over to them. I love the concept, I think, from Sharon in here about having a 24-hour response time. I think that is absolutely the right method to pursue. Have the right equipment, meaning your website and everything else makes it easy for people to get there, and find the right hunting spot. Find the place in your community where the people are that you want to hire, and be there and be there strongly, be there available, make it easy for them. So I'm the idea of the time I'm going to give to Sharon. So Sharon, if you could email how to contact you at our podcast, don't do it here, but email that. I like the idea of finding an interim person that could be your hunter, because the owners and the GMs are swamped right now trying to do what they do. But we need to do this, because if not, this problem's going to go on forever, and we got to get in front of it. So any other questions for the group, Lisa? If not, I'm going to wish everyone a great remainder of July. Next month, our podcast is going to be about the need to change our culture, and how we can start adapting to the newer generation, so we can get over this hump about hospitality being the party that people want to be at. So everyone, good hunting, good luck, and we'll talk to you again in a month.